Joining us this afternoon is Loretta Ogboroko, a medical director, public health specialist. Hello, Mrs. Loretta. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very, very much.
All right, it's a pleasure having you. Now, Mrs. Loretta, ending inequality is a theme for this year. What impact could this have in reducing the stigma surrounding those living with this condition, that's HIV?
It's important for us to realize that HIV is still very much with us, almost 40 years down the line. And like the WHO director pointed out, 38 million people are still living with HIV the world over, with Africa bearing a huge burden. But the stigma has not really abated because people don't know that currently U equals U. That means undetectable viral load means non-transmission. Okay, so what people are still having in their mind is those things that were very much in the early days, 40 years ago, where people think if you touch me, it jumps at me. But these days, we have antiretroviral medications that have dropped significantly the viral loads to levels that are undetectable, to such an extent that you have people who are HIV negative now marrying people who are positive but with undetected viral loads, and they are able to live together and have children with the negative person not having HIV. So it's or AIDS. So it is important for us to push this message out now so that people begin to realize that there should be no stigma. And how do we push out this message? It doesn't just rest with our healthcare providers the world over alone, and especially in Africa. We must use domesticated means that our people relate with. That means the churches, the mosque, the community assemblages, because that is how we'll get the message into the core of the communities that we must reduce this stigma. HIV doesn't just jump. And we have managed in the scientific world with antiretroviral medicines to make it undetectable in many, many people and untransmissible as well. So U equals U, and the stigma should be something we should begin to push away.
Right. Dr. Loretta, to put an end to this disease, more research is needed, and that in turn requires huge funding. Now, what ways can Africa generate these funds without actually going cap in hand to international bodies for support?
The answer to that is simple. We must look inward and we must have the will. Looking inwards means we have to then determine what is of importance to us on the African continent. And if you look at the African budgets and the way we do it, you find out that there are things that we've never considered important to us. Health and education carry the least proportion in African budgets. African countries need to understand that we must have value for human life. And this again goes back to our leaders. Because when we understand that, then we can push our thin resources, no matter how thin, towards this. We will then be able to make money available to our universities and the professors therein for proper research. Now, I said funds and looking inwards and will. Now, the will to do this must come from a top-bottom approach. So what do I mean? The leaders must push this will to have value for human life in not just HIV, but in all things. Look around the African continent. In what state are our health care facilities? But look at our central banks. They look more glamorous. They look better structured than even our major hospitals in our different countries. So we need to put our mouth where our money is and understand that every life matters. And that way we'll push money into the institutions. Because even when we go for AIDS, there is evidence to show that these monies are not even put in the right place. So it's not even necessarily the monies, it is the will. So people really understand that there is a need here. Right. And then the citadel of learning, our professors must begin to profess what they've learned. Right. They must begin to initiate these researches. Because sometimes the problem is that we are not even initiating them. We are waiting cap in hand. We have a sort of rent economy mindset, and we should first of all do away with that.
Okay. Doctor, we know that vaccines have been society's most potent weapon to eradicate epidemics. And it's been 3 decades now since the emergence of HIV. What could be the delay, and why are there no alternatives?
There have been 3 big trials across the world to try and discover a vaccine that would manage HIV. But what the problem is, 2 of them have been discontinued recently. I think the last one was in August 2021, and one is still ongoing. The main problem is that HIV has strain diversity. What that means is that there are many different, I'm trying to make this very simple. There are many different types of it, and it has understood a way to avoid the police system of the human body. By police system, I mean the immune system of the human body. And a lot of vaccines are created based on the immune system being able to identify them and create substances that can then fight them and make them easily identifiable for next time, so that when they get into the body, they are destroyed. But what HIV has mastered is that 1, it has many different types, right. And then 2, it can avoid these policemen in the body.
Okay, Dr. Loretta, because of our time, I would like to ask another question, right? Now, would you share the opinion that the world is actually off track from delivering a commitment to end AIDS by 2030?
In my opinion, yes, we have been distracted. And we have been distracted not by errors of commission, but more omission. The coming of the COVID-19 has distracted us and has created a lot of obstacles towards continuing our race to eradicating HIV by 2030. However, being off track does not mean we will have to stay off track. We can use this HIV World AIDS Day awareness build-up to again come back on track and begin to do what we should do collectively for eradicating this virus.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Loretta. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you.